So I've been teaching writing programs at UCLA for about 10 years now, and I have a bit of an odd background. I don't actually have an English degree. My degrees are in history, both undergrad and grad, but they're writing intensive, and I've loved teaching writing because I get to talk to young, smart people about their ideas all day long. I get paid to do that, and that's a pretty good gig. I had a very, I kind of wanted to, I was excited to speak to you all because I actually am a product of the community college system. I transferred from community college, and like Rudy, I'm also ex-military.
Yeah!
I'm ex-Navy.
Fantastic. One team, one fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Booyah!
And the sailors and Marines have a special relationship in the military.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. You know, Tamar, when I was in SEER school, you know, we survival, evasion, resistance, escape. We had lots of air crew, helicopter, fixed wing, lots of Navy personnel, and then us recon guys and snipers and SEALs. And we just kept saying, no matter what kind of pain we were going through, Navy Marine Corps team, and one team, one fight, and we got through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason I wanted to bring those things up, these parts about my past up, is because I think it's really important to reach students where they are, where they're coming from, wherever that may be, because we don't always take a direct path to reaching our end goals. And I actually see our climate crisis in the same way, that there are many paths to work through this climate crisis. So just a little bit about the work that I do in terms of sustainability. I sold my car 5 years ago and went zero waste shortly afterwards. And very quickly after doing that, I realized that my classroom was really the best platform for helping my students really work through some of their own logic and then take that into the real world for themselves. Because I think the Academy does a really wonderful job, and it's very difficult for the Academy to help students apply those theories in their lives. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I started doing outreach on campus. I work with a lot of student groups on campus. I give talks across campus to help students live more sustainable lives. And I work with the Department of Sustainability on campus. I've really tried to get out beyond my classroom and not just make this about papers that I'm assigning my students. And sort of apropos of this particular panel, my current course is actually dealing with COVID-19 and climate. And we're looking at my students' future career goals and doing research about those careers and looking at how this pandemic and our climate crisis together are going to impact a myriad of careers. So I'm basically just trying to I've got my fingers in all the pies I can put them in, trying to help young people in ways that I felt like I maybe didn't get the kind of help that I could have, which is realizing what we can do and then putting it into action. So that's the sort of in a nutshell.
It's fantastic work, and thank you for your service. What a wonderful example you are to the warrior, soldier, sailor, citizen. I think you know, in the military, we for reasons for mission accomplishment, we're very, very myopic and laser beam focused, and we call citizens civilians. Like, that's a state of mind before we became servicemen and women. And I think I like to say citizen because we're all citizens, and there's many ways to serve. The military does not own the definition of service, and I think the science community, the education community, absolutely any person that is on the front lines of disaster relief and medical, firefighting, law enforcement, all people who are at the front lines bringing to bear their life's experience, wisdom, teaching to solve problems and to empower the next generation. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Rudy.
You're welcome.
And thank you for that excellent introduction, Tamar. I love that we have two service members here. The one force, one fight. I think that really does apply to all of us here on Spaceship Earth. So with that, Julie, would you like to introduce yourself, and then Rudy, we'll have you.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Darrell. I know Tamar personally. We've become friends over the last couple of years. Um, I own a shop in Long Beach called Bring Your Own Long Beach, and we opened back in 2017, and we are a refill store. So you can bring your own bottles for shampoo and conditioner, laundry detergent, and a lot of other useful products for personal care and for cleaning around your home. And everything that we sell at our store is eco-friendly, and we try to source as local as possible. Um, my background is completely different. I did get some certification for green design, but my background is in interior design and architecture. So I started this as a personal journey and found some major roadblocks in my, in trying to reduce my waste. And so I figured that I couldn't be the only person in my community looking for refills. And so I um, decided to try a pop-up and see if I could get anybody else to join in and buy some soap. So I bought the largest soap I could find, the largest vinegar, and just some basics. And um, I had a good turnout, and actually one of our mutual friends was one of the mine and Tamar's friend Angie came, and she was one of the first people I started to cultivate a relationship with, along with some other people in my city. And I just kept doing more and more farmers markets and local events, and then eventually I partnered with Algalita. They're marine research and education in Long Beach. The founder of Algalita is Captain Charles Moore, and he's the one that discovered the Great Pacific Garbage Patch back 20 years ago. And he's written a really great book called Plastic Ocean. It's a great one to check out. And yeah, I've just been trying to expand what we offer, and do as many community events as possible to kind of get more people educated and involved in the process. So.
Great introduction.
Thanks, Rudy.
And I love your work.
Thank you.
I have so much to share, even though, I mean, I'm quite humbly, you all are very well educated, and I love the hard work that you all are doing on a daily. My name is Rudy Reyes, Rodolfo Reyes, and I have two fathers. They're both Marines. The man who gave me these genes, Hector de la Yata, and he never came back from Vietnam the same way, so I never knew him. And then Rudy Reyes Sr., Rodolfo Reyes Sr., who gave me his name. And I was born in 1971, and things were and my family is poor Mexican Americans from Texas. And actually, my biological father, prestigious as he was with his education in Marine Corps, he was a Mexican citizen, but of Spanish descent. So, there's such a class system, especially 48, 50 years ago there. I had a tough family background, since the family just didn't hold together. And my brothers and I ended up growing up in the Omaha Home for Boys. And this is where I learned in Omaha, Nebraska, just how amazing teamwork and sustainability is, because all of us boys, from 5 years old to 18 years old, sustained the whole compound slash boys' home. We drove tractor, we gardened, we had livestock. We all shared in work, chores, we learned skills, and we were accountable and responsible for one another. And in Nebraska, in Omaha, it was just a beautiful amalgamation of urban and rural. And I learned work ethic there through athletics, through wrestling and football, and hard work. In the Omaha Home for Boys, they gave us time cards. So we learned to clock in and clock out, and all of our privileges were determined on our grades and our conduct. And in the early 80s, and it was a tough time, a big transition time in our country, specifically with minorities and people of a lower socioeconomic. Many of my boys, my brothers at the Omaha Home for Boys, were poor white children displaced because the farming agro business, the corporate farming crushed all these small farms. So we had Native Americans, poor whites, a few Latinos, a few Blacks, and we learned together that we rely on one another and to be out in Mother Nature. I mean, pushing mowers and working the garden and doing everything together. And we were so successful. That led me into martial arts and then ultimately into the Marine Corps and then into the Special Operations community. It was really that love and the passion of community. And very few people imagine this unless you've been in the field and you've been privileged to have the experiences I've had in the field, whether in combat or in training through the oceans. I was on a ship that traveled around the freaking world. I've been to every continent but Antarctica. What I was most moved by in my experience in the military was the field, the nature, the animals. When I was in Scout Sniper School in Virginia in 1998 or 99, I remember I was so tired and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I'm crawling through this tall grass, trying to set up my final firing position, camming up, super hot, trying to figure this stuff out. I was a junior guy, and I see a little praying mantis on a blade of grass that's right here by my eye, a baby praying mantis, and I'm just looking at him. These are the kind of magical things that happen by being a warrior. And after all the wars that I've been through, I didn't want to lose that magic due to my own scars, and I didn't want to lose it, period, because I hold it so sacred. And that's how I started Force Blue, with a lot of brothers and sisters that believe in conservation and bringing everybody together. This is inclusive. This is not exclusive. We do not demonize people or vilify people. I just got through speaking at Penn State for their big conservation consortium. And they asked me, well, what's been most successful for Force Blue? How did you do this in 4 or 5 years? 4 years with a dream. We had a dream and a logo. I had no idea about the business. A dream and a logo. And now we're with the NFL, and we're worldwide with our commandos from around the world working with us subsurface in the Florida Reef Track. And we've just been invited to the United Nations in June. I'll tell you how we did it. We're all in the same boat. Whether you get in on the left side or the right side, fore or aft, we are all in this boat, the same boat, to save the world and prepare a new generation and a new society so that we are stewards of this world. And I believe this is what is my most important legacy. All the combat and war and fighting and athletics, just my grade school. Now I am in the thick of it to leave a legacy so that we can have a beautiful world ahead for all of us.
Thank you, Rudy, for that beautiful introduction. I love you sharing about your background. I am a fellow Texan, and I wonder if this conversation will touch on some of the economic ramifications that will come from this COVID shutdown. What I'd really love is to hear your perspective. What observations have you each had since the shutdown? We've been quarantined for what, 5 weeks now? What have you learned personally, or what could we take from this experience as a society moving forward to help craft that more sustainable world, that better world that you described? And whoever wants to start, Tamar, Julie, Rudy, we'd love to hear your perspectives on all of this. Before we open that up, though, I just want to remind all of our attendees that if you want to ask a question of the panelists, you are welcome to click down at the bottom of your screen. You should see a Q&A icon, and you can type your questions in directly there, and even upvote other people's questions. So that is one way to get your voice heard in this webinar format. Also, we will be doing the raffle drawing at the end of the meeting, so please do stick around until the end for that web link. So, yeah, what can we learn from this COVID-19 shutdown, you guys?
Well, I guess I'll start. I'm sure I have just a tiny thing to share, and I'm sure both Tamar and Rudy could even expand upon it. But I know that for me personally, it has really helped me connect with community, and whether that's my neighbors in my physical neighborhood or other ways, other types of community. And it's forcing us to get creative um, to do trades. Like, you know, I'll drop off something at my friend's porch and she'll leave something on the porch for me to pick up, and just working together to get the needs to each other. We have a lot of bananas grown in our garden, so we use that
Wow.
as trade for a lot of things. So it's been really great to be able to use my community as a resource. So I know that Tamar has a great story about that too. So
About the bananas?
no, just about with your community garden that you've started.
Oh yes. Well, I've started a seed sharing garden at my house. I've turning my front yard into a vegetable garden. I was doing that before COVID-19, and now I just want to encourage others to gain food security. My understanding is that COVID-19 is going to lead us very quickly toward food shortages. And that's something that we're going to be dealing with very quickly. So any way that we can become food secure, the better. And I think this is actually a really wonderful moment because there's a lot of really awful things happening, but it depends on what we take from it, I think. I've been thinking a lot about, I was glad Rudy brought up his childhood, because I've been tapping into things I learned when I was growing up on what were then called food stamps and are now called EBT. When I was growing up, we sometimes didn't have food, and my mother always had a garden, and we had chickens and ducks, and so sometimes dinner was just a bowl of beans with some cornbread. And I've been
So good, Tamar, and you're exactly right. You're right on with this. But go ahead. You're talking my childhood too, and subsistence through gardening and chickens and such, and continue. I'll tell you a little something, but go ahead, Tamar. Fantastic.
Yeah, I just, this is part of where my seed sharing idea came from, is that a lot of the folks in my community might not have experienced food insecurity as I have. But I know that COVID-19 is going to disrupt our food supply chain for a variety of reasons. And our climate crisis will also will create that disruption. So the best thing I can do is help my community, as Julie pointed out, to gain as much food security as we possibly can through sharing and through growing. And it's given me the opportunity to tap into some of those experiences from when I was younger, things that honestly I really would like, for a while really tried to forget and move past. But I think it's actually an opportunity for us to see the superpower that we have to be resilient and to connect with others, and not just, and to connect with nature. And it can be as much as, I've been teaching my students how to like regrow vegetables that they buy at the market. I'm like, it's free food. Why wouldn't you stick it in dirt and just see what happens?
Yes.
There are ways to access this that doesn't have to be, that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And I think we've been sold this bill of goods that the sustainability movement is something that is for affluent folks, when poor folks have been doing it out of necessity for a very, very long time.
That's right.
And so I think that we have an opportunity here to say, what do we value and how can we build upon those values? So that's really, once a week I have two things happen. I've been shopping at my local farmer's market for about 4 years now, and I've gotten to know a particular farmer that I always go to. They're a Latinx family, and they're tri-generational. It's the grandparents, the parents, and the children working on the farm. They do everything. They own it and operate it. There's no outside help. And when
How good does it make you feel, Tamar? How good does it make you feel in your heart?
Well, I'll feel good if they survive this.
We have to.
Yeah, if this farm can make it through, I'll feel good about my work. But I reached out to them and I asked, hey, are you guys okay? And Joanna said, no, I mean, we could lose our farm. All of our markets are closing. So through my community page, I organized a social distancing market through my home. And once a week, I I post for my community what produce they have available. The farmer brings it to my house, packaged in boxes that are reusable. I organize social distancing, and then I provide the seed sharing station as well, so folks can leave seeds and take seeds in egg cartons with dirt and start to grow their own food while also supporting this local family farm. And it's like a part-time job, but it's the best thing I could possibly do with what time I have, is to try to support these institutions and folks that I want to see make through this situation.
Yes, the force multiplier. You're being a force multiplier. Man, so many things go through my mind and my heart, and because I was blessed. First of all, I had a golden lottery ticket. I was born an orphan and poor in America. Years later, I did counter-terror and counter-poaching in Uganda and Kenya, and I worked and prepared and led men and women in combat there for their country, and the average income was about $400 a year. These amazing, beautiful African brothers and sisters lived mostly on cornmeal and occasionally a chicken, and they were lean, and of course Darwinistic survival of the fittest, but they were extremely hungry for knowledge and extremely excited about every single day. They played a game called draft, which is a speed checkers, and it was village, it was community, which we experience in the military, especially in the small units. I think, or what I observed with this corona, now remember, I've also worked all over South Africa as well. I've been in communities with 75% HIV. In Iraq, I was in villages with 50% polio. I tend to observe that I've been in the real world. This here is not the real world, because even our poor here are quite wealthy. But by force multiplying, as you said, Tamar, where we bring assets to bear that can make maximum impact for the good, I think that is the way forward. Also, what's happened with me with this slowdown, I have never been healthier. I've been pushing myself as a workaholic and a leader, and then I had my own scars and demons from a lifetime of trauma. I was constantly traveling. I was constantly pushing my body and my mind and my soul, because I'm used to pain as a recon Marine. Well, I've been sitting with myself for a month. I've been reading more. I've been training smart. I've been sleeping for the first time, I'd say, in 30 years, maybe 40 years. And the water is becoming clear. We have a massive opportunity, you educators and leaders. We have a massive opportunity to write this next chapter, in which community service, building the garden in oneself, as well as the garden around you. The struggles most of our first world is having right now is the lack of stimulation, because there's so much of human doing and not human being. People are constantly used to being stimulated or pleasured, and we've lost the essence of what made us human beings magnificent in the first place in the Neolithic times, when we banded together and sharpened sticks and protected ourselves from the highline predators and built fires and eventually created culture and art together so that the children could be raised and survive. This is the essence. This is only a blink of an eye ago in evolution. A blink of an eye ago, we were this way. And now we're so far removed. No wonder everybody's so unhappy and so sick inside. These are the things I work on and I think about every single day. I don't know why I was made to feel like I've always been an emotional and a very tender person, regardless of how strong and hard I've had to be as my armor. I've always been a very tender person, and I've asked myself why humanity hurts each other so much. And, you know, if you get bigger picture, our economic consumerist mindset is absolutely damaging and using slave labor all around the world so that we have niceties and or stimulation. I ask myself, why? And we have become removed from tilling the earth. We've become removed from looking at our skies and being in the oceans. We've become removed also from hunting and field dressing our prey to eat and being honorable to that. We're so removed. This is an opportunity for us to come back to more of that essence, and it's up to us to keep that message going forward. That's my little 2 cents.
Thank you all so much for those inspiring words. We had a couple of great questions from the audience. Some audience members would like to know about how we could grow more food from food waste that we buy at the store, how we can turn that into a garden, and likewise, how can we help those in our community, like the wonderful example that Tamar shared with us about, you know, being that force multiplier. If you guys could discuss a little bit around that idea, that would be awesome.
Julie, do you want to tell us some of the things you're regrowing? Your garden's on fire right now.
Yeah, I've been living in this house for about 10 years. It used to be a rental property, and when we moved in, the dogs that lived here had just shredded the grass. It was just sad looking. So we, you know, over the years, we've kind of improved it little by little, and I've had some good gardening years and some not so good, but I've learned a lot of tricks, and there's so many resources on YouTube now. It's crazy. I've been binging on YouTube videos for gardening, so check those out for sure. But I've had some success regrowing herbs pretty well by trimming the bottom part off and then sticking it in dirt and leaving just the tops. And with tomatoes, you can save seeds from tomatoes by just drying some on a piece of paper. And then once they're completely dry, you can plant them. You'd only need a couple to make a plant, though. You don't need several. And yeah, there's a lot of different vegetables like celery, and that one I learned from Tamar. I'd seen it before, but I'd never tried it, and she had done such a great job regrowing celery. So I'm doing that too, and leeks and onions. I've been doing green onions for a while, but I hadn't tried some of the other ones. So those are pretty fun. We also have a lettuce going right now too. So that's what we've got so far.
Julie, are you doing any carrots?
No, I know that there are people that regrow it to regrow the green tops. But we started some carrots from seed. They have yet to sprout yet. So we'll see. We have quite a lot of seeds. So.
Those carrots are some of my
Oh
favorites.
yeah, we love carrots. So I'm hoping that they're successful, because even the kids will eat them. They'll just pull them out of the ground and eat them. So
true. So true. When I was very small, I had a pretty good life till about 6 or 7 years old. I had a grandmother, and she had a garden, and an incredible Mexican-American woman got her education and became a nurse. She provided for us boys. And I remember raiding that garden, because, you know, when you're little, you're just playing and flying kites and running through the woods, and you're drinking for water hoses, and you couldn't come back inside. So we'd grab those little carrots, and we'd sustain and love life eating carrots, tomatoes, and drinking out of the water hose. It was amazing.
yeah, that's the great thing about kids is it's funny how if it's bought at the store and put on their plate, they're not that likely to eat it. But if they help grow or even are around while you're growing it, they're more likely to try fruits and vegetables that they wouldn't otherwise. So yeah,
Yes.
from the time they were old enough to walk, they would pull herbs and just eat them. Thankfully, everything in the backyard is edible, except for the tomato greens you don't want to eat. So we've always had to watch them around that. But almost everything else is at least edible in our garden. So they're old enough now that they know the difference now. But yeah.
And there's that love and mentoring and parenthood that comes with it too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are inspiring the living hell out of me. I'm
I
in a
think
little, like little side house. The big house with a brother of mine that I was in recon with. He's now a sheriff, but we just have a little patch of cement, and we're looking to get together here in Hancock Park with a community that's doing some gardening, a community garden. And I see that we've got some folks out here that are into it. So we'll talk offline afterwards, everybody. This is so awesome.
absolutely. Rudy, you might look into doing some hugel culture right on top of that cement. I think it would be a wonderful way for you to get some really robust gardening happening for very little money. And it's a good way to go. It's an old practice. But I think that, I love what you were saying about kids getting interested in the food. So few kids understand where their food comes from, or what, they think that chicken tenders come like they don't come from actual chickens, or there are so many things that they're unaware of. And I think living in an urban environment as we do, there's even less ability to come into contact with that. I'm sure, Rudy, growing up in Omaha, you had lots of experience with those gardens, as you pointed out. And I had some of that too in Kentucky, playing hide and seek in cornfields or tobacco fields, and snacking on the corn, but not the tobacco. But I live near an elementary school, and every morning I see kids, well, not right now, but someday soon, they're going to be coming back, and they walk by my house on their way to school with their parents. Maybe they parked a couple of blocks away and they're walking the rest or something. And they look at my front yard and they look at the vegetables, and they have this giant artichoke plant right now. It's probably 6 feet wide and 5 feet tall. And it's got about half a dozen artichokes on it. And kids will stand in front of that thing for 10 minutes, pointing and touching and asking questions.
Yes.
And, and it's such a great way. One of my goals for the front yard really is also to grow more food than I can eat, and have a little free pantry in the front yard. But I want the kids to pick out the vegetables, because I want them to learn a little bit, identify what it is, and say, Mom, I want to take this squash home. Let's make some tacos, because I think that one of the things that we've lost touch with, and I think COVID-19 can give us the bandwidth, as Rudy was saying, we're all so busy, right? That it's making us sick, and this has slowed us down, that we can maybe take the time. I see families now walking with their masks on. They're out for a stroll to get to stretch their legs, and they're still stopping and looking at that artichoke plant. And they were watching my sunflowers come up and the tomatoes grow, and they get excited about it. And so I hope that not just sharing the food with my community, but also using what space my community can see visually as a way to help them get in touch with their food, because maybe they don't have access to a rad backyard like Julie has. Maybe they live in an apartment with just a balcony. And so then I think, for those parents, they can go home and say, you know what, on our balcony, we can grow green onions, we can grow celery in a pot, we can grow lettuce in a pot, we can regrow all of those from things we brought home from the supermarket. If they get excited enough about it, then maybe some of those things will go home with them as well. So I think that, this is just another opportunity if we choose to take it.
That is so inspiring, Tamar. Thank you, Julie, Tamar, Rudy, for sharing about your garden successes in your childhood running through the fields. Some students have been posting on the comments here about what other nutrient-dense foods might be easily cultivated. I know in my garden, I have some sweet potato greens that a friend of mine gave me last year. Those things grow like gangbusters, and take the greens right off and boil them up like spinach, and they're delicious.
And all the potatoes.
The potatoes.
Great food, great energy food.
I wanted to ask, you had mentioned hugel culture?
Hugel.
Could you please speak a little bit more about what that is and how that could benefit urban gardeners?
Yes, it's amazing, and it's old as hell. Sorry, Navy slip, I curse sometimes.
It's all right, it's all right.
You can take the girl out of the Navy, but you can't take the Navy out of the girl. So, hugel culture is an old German farming practice. It's hundreds of years old. And the essential idea is I was telling Rudy, you can do this on cement, but typically it wasn't done that way hundreds of years ago, obviously. Typically what you would do is you would dig a trench that's maybe like a foot or two deep, not even 2 feet, I think. And in that trench, you would layer a series of different types of biomass. So the first layer would be cardboard, just your regular cardboard from, fruit boxes, or in my case, wine boxes, because
Yeah, me too. I've gained a little weight myself.
Yep. But any cardboard that's not shiny, basically, you got to take all the stickers and all the plastic off of it, because you don't want that stuff in the earth. And so you do a layer of cardboard, you spray it with water, then you do a layer of logs. And there are some logs that work better than others, but you basically want a series of large logs after that. And this will bring you about to the level of the ground, and then you build up from there with smaller biomass pieces like sticks, and you also add mulch or gardening green materials, and then you top. Now you have where it was concave. Eventually, it becomes this mound, and this is what it means is mound culture. So now it's a mound like this, and you essentially have 3 sides that you can plant on. And as that wood, the logs underneath, and all of that biomass decays, it provides nutrients for whatever you're growing on that mound.
Nitrogen, all of that.
All
yes.
of that. But you also get we're very lucky actually in Los Angeles if we can use this, because we are so arid, that those logs, when it rains, they become sponges, and they then provide water besides nutrients. They bring all of the microbes and worms to the party that we need in our garden. And in addition to that, in colder zones, because that biomass is breaking down, it's also very warm. So often you can even grow things on hugelkultur mounds during the winter that you might not be able to grow in other seasons. It's pretty amazing, and it's old technology that we could get back in touch with.
I'm in. The Cascade of Life. I mean, we've been gifted to be on this incredible planet with these conditions, and I don't know if people out there are spiritual or science or both, like myself, but I think it's God's way of always rewarding us with bounty when we're aligned with these simple processes. And we've been doing this as a human culture, since we came out of the caves. And you're exactly right, Tamar. I can't wait to get started here in my little concrete alley.
It's these old practices, hugelkultur and permaculture. They're methods that we've forgotten, but they've been there for a long time. And we've been told that, you need Roundup and you need GMO, and we need these things. But if you look into it and do some research, you can see that permaculture, hugelkultur, these kinds of methodologies can actually produce an abundance of food and a diverse amount of food. So if we're really worried about feeding our population and helping our climate crisis, these are some techniques we really need to get back in touch with.
Thank you guys for the 101 gardening. This is all great stuff. We had another question from the audience about the reduced fossil fuel consumption that this quarantine has necessitated, because we're all driving way less. And if there's any way that we could figure out how to sustain this. And sort of in a similar vein, another audience member has put forward this question about how to stay motivated when it seems like a hopeless cause, when you're the only person who's making an effort in your social sphere, and maybe it doesn't seem as important. 2 very good questions.
Make new friends. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. It's really hard to persevere. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I become the butt of the joke. Somebody asked if I could they came to my house and I said, hey, bring your stuff in a reusable Tupperware because I know you have them. And my friend joked, oh, I thought about bringing hummus in a brown paper bag. Would that be okay, Tamar? They sometimes like to, poke fun and that sort of thing. But I think that, really if you feel like you're the only one, it's not because they're not watching. It's because it's hard to accept that we all individually play a part in this climate crisis in varying degrees, all kinds of ways. But it's really hard to wrap your head around that, and then to be able to be self-critical enough to want to take action. But the more people around you see the way that you're changing, they're going to feel more comfortable doing those things too. And so many of my friends have changed because of that. So many of my family members, one of my brothers was making fun of me 2 years ago, and now he's like, hey, send way, I got chickens. What should I do with it? How does that go in the compost? What kind of compost should I have? Hey, how should I, so I think that sometimes if we are less judgmental of our friends and family who maybe are not very supportive, and understand that this is just a very bitter pill to swallow, and we just keep doing what's right for us, eventually they will get there. They'll find their way.
The 100th monkey. So what I've learned with Force Blue, you all, every third breath, we take, the oxygen comes from the coral reefs. So if we lose these reefs, everything, all human and life will end for a while, and then another life form will take a shot at it. But I have 2 little children. I'd love to have grandchildren. And also I'm a fighter. So we've got to fight for this beautiful planet. I notice that because Force Blue on the outside, it's warriors and commandos, and most of the green movement and blue movement looks at the military as destructive and wasteful. And then most of the military tough guys and the archetype of hero that our society absolutely lifts up in the video games and the movies, all of that, they're like, hey, the conservation and scientists, they're tree huggers. They're not as badass as we are, or what have you. What we have learned is that when people get involved on a mission of virtue, conservation, community, disaster relief, child's programs, everybody involved sees that actually they're so much more alike than they are different. And it just takes some courage to leave yourself available to have not even a discussion, but continuing an invitation. And it's what's really, really helped us, raising money for a very equipment intensive and boat intensive and skill intensive job, like doing what we're doing. At first I thought we would get funding from the military and big corporations. We did not. My initial funding I got from artists, from musicians, and from a wonderful benefactor who loves turtles. It's by bringing people together and modeling and educating. The vilification, it only pushes people away and keeps things separate. We have to just keep inviting and living it in ourselves, and show our smiles and our amazing family around us in village life. People are coming back to it. I believe in that, and I think that's the way forward. And you, Julie, you all are doing it absolutely with the food. I'm kind of doing more on the fitness, because for me, because of my life, by staying physically fit and moving my body, it gives me brain health, so that the anxiety and the depression isn't there. And it makes me happy about how I start my day, because the opposite of that is when I'm so down and I can't get myself out of bed, everything crumbles around me. And in my heart, we're all leaders. We're all leaders, forever students, but leaders. And I'm doing my very best to lead us the best way I can through this.
I would just add, and that was great, Rudy. I appreciate the you're a forever student. We're always learning and trying to be better. And I would just add that finding your niche is really important, because we can't all do everything. Not everybody can have a full garden. Not everybody, like Tamar has such a great, if you ever follow her on Instagram, she does
I will
a lot of
I'm all over both of y'all after this.
yeah, she does a lot of public transportation, since she doesn't have a car. So for myself, I can't completely be car free. It's difficult with the family of 4. I know it can be done, but at this point in my life, it's not doable completely. But Tamar showing how easy it is has encouraged me to
Yeah.
get a bus pass and just go when I can take the bus. And, obviously right now we're not really doing the bus so much. I don't really need to go too many places, but, just trying to find the niche where you can fit, and keep encouraging people in different ways, because we can't all do everything. So it's easily overwhelming to try to do it all.
And that's why we need each other.
Yes,
Well, Judy,
exactly.
that's why we need each other. And
Yeah.
we need each other physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's interesting. I had some notoriety for some athletics and combat heavy stuff I did in my past, and then got some notoriety in film and media. I find I believe that was all just to prepare me for now and today, which is community and an absolute savage and unstoppable pursuit of love and self-respect. Because when you start respecting yourself, you have to respect your environment, and you have to respect all the energy that comes into you to sustain your little human spacesuit while you're out here. It's changed my life. It's changed my men's life in Force Blue. It's changed our loved one's life. And look, I'm here available to you all to learn from you. So see, it's changing me, and it's awesome.
I think I think Rudy's definitely onto something in terms of like how we can learn from one another. And I wanted to kind of circle back around to the other question that you had that Julie also sort of touched on, which is, I think it was something about like, kind of breaking away from our oil consumption, right? Especially with transportation, right? I told my students today, I said, hey, look at this awesome effect we're having on the planet by sitting in our pajamas.
I agree.
Yeah. So like, we're not doing anything, and we're doing something wonderful. And so I mean, I like to, my Instagram account typically documents a lot of my car-free in Los Angeles living, because I think that that's just not something people think of when they think of Los Angeles. And I wanted to demonstrate how much I absolutely enjoy living without a car. And it's a choice that I made because I could make it. I live near a bus line, and I can take that to work. And I don't have children, so I don't have to get kids to school. There are things that made it possible for me to do that. There was a time when I was an independent tutor where I would not have been able to do that. I had to drive to family homes. But when I think about our dependency on fossil fuels and transportation, I'm thinking about, I had my students and I were talking about the NASA images that show the decrease of NO2 across urban environments all over the globe right now. And much of that has to do with transportation. And that we can see right here in Los Angeles, like you can see.
Oh, it's so beautiful right now.
Oh, gorgeous. Like we can see things we never saw before. We can see what the potential is for us to live in this every day. And so my students and I have been talking a lot about whatever it looks like when this pandemic quarantine ends will be very, very different from what it was before, because we're in this for the long haul. It's going to come and go. So we get the opportunity. I was telling my students today that, we kind of got a commercial break. We got like an intermission. Mm-hmm. And this is our opportunity to say, hey, let's take a pause and take what we want what we really need and what we want. Let's determine what need really looks like here, because if you need to drive somewhere, then drive somewhere. But you know, I like what Rudy was saying earlier about how we were running around so much that it's making us sick, and it's in some literal ways, but also in a lot of metaphorical ways too, that we're rushing so much that we forget that it's not really a necessity to rush like this. So not always, at least. So I think when I think about our dependencies, I think about a couple of things that have just happened in the last couple of weeks. Right now, just this morning, I read an LA Times piece about, I think they said 20 oil tankers are off the coast of Los Angeles, and they don't have anywhere to put their oil. Nobody wants it.
Yes.
Oil prices.
It's down in Long Beach. I saw them.
Yeah, for the Port of LA, right?
Yeah.
And for the first time in history, the price of oil has gone negative. That's never happened before. Airplanes are being grounded, and the airline industry is rethinking whether or not they're going to operate at that capacity in the future. And so this to me is really an opportunity for us to say, hey, you know what we do need? We need food. We need to support our farm workers. We need to support the farming industry in a regenerative rather than a degenerative manner, so that we can feed more people, even if that means utilizing GMOs for a small portion of time until we can work our way out of them. And maybe we need fossil fuels a little bit, but maybe we don't need them as much as we have been using them.
This could be a great opportunity for shifting the technology out of necessity. I agree wholeheartedly, and I understand. And also, I would add that it's a very complex world. I also, I'm concerned and aware of where we stand as a world power, and defense and safety, and how military and economic might is used to leverage trade deals.
Yeah.
These are big picture things that probably most people don't even think about.
Oh, Rudy, I'm right there with you. I mean, the Pentagon.
I'm with you, Tamar.
I'm with you. The Pentagon actually said that, our climate crisis is the greatest threat to our national security. If we don't contend with our climate crisis, then the Pentagon itself is like, this is our greatest threat. If we care about our power, if we care about our sovereignty, if we care about all of these things, we have to contend with
human rights,
all of those things. And it's an opportunity for it's an opportunity for our country to be leaders, but also to be good community members, global community members. Both of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, I think these things are really interconnected. It's not. I would never ever imagine that our climate crisis has one facet, but it has millions, probably.
Sure, we're going to shift our society for the positive. I believe that we must. And now we've had a tactical pause. So everyone's had a little time to think and feel and possibly put into perspective. We should take initiative with this tactical pause and continue not just the discussion, but the actions forward for a sustainable world.
You guys, this has been the most amazing and inspiring conversation I've had in ages. I think that our 100+ attendees have really gotten quite a gift this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Glendale Students for Sustainability for hosting this event. We're coming up on 6 o'clock, so I wanted to invite you all to take a look at the chat window. Angelou is going to be sharing a link to where you can share your email address to have a chance to win one of 7 gift cards for this raffle. And
actually, Rachel,
yes, ma'am.
If they could just private message their student email or any email they have to the panelists.
Okay, change of plans. If you would like to enter the raffle, if you could please send a private message in the chat window. You can change who you're sending it to so it doesn't go to all panelists. You can just send your
send it directly to me, Angelou Lasaka, guys.
Send it, yes, directly to Angelou Lasaka, who is listed as one of our panelists. And she will be selecting the winners at random and give you more information about how to claim your prize. Thank you all for the great questions. Thank you for your time this evening. I hope that we can stay connected through Instagram. If you
Absolutely.
guys
Can you review the Instagram handles just in case for everybody so the audience can run that?
perfect. Yes, if you are able to share the your Instagram handles, maybe to the chat window here, then everybody will have it and can find you. I know I'm going to be following you guys, and I would love to get a hold of some of those bananas, Julie.
Fantastic. I'm a bicycle guy and a runner guy, so I'll run for some bananas.
Heck yeah.
Fantastic. I'm very honored that you all brought me on, and thank you so much. Brandon Lugo brought me on, a brother I was doing some spiritual work and martial art work in the men's space, in being good, truly good men. And he brought me on. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming together and building this wonderful community. Obviously, there's a lot more to be said. This conversation does not end here. We can keep it going in our own social circles, and I look forward to keeping in touch with all of you. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Tamar, Julie, and Rudy, in behalf of all the
Thank you, Julie,
students.
Tamar, everybody. Thank you
Happy
all.
Earth Day to you all.
Happy Earth
Yes.
Day. And for those who are joining the raffle, please stay. We're still getting a lot of emails. Thank you so much. Yes, send it to me, guys. You can send it privately to me. Yes, Sabrina, this is recorded. And we will be posting it on our pages so others could look at the recap.
Hey, Rachel. Angelo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you specify where you want the attendees to send their email to? Because
You
they're
can either send it to me or
yeah.
everybody's been sending it to the all panelists.
Yeah, do you want it to all panelists?
option.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
specify that.
totally.
Some confusion. Okay, guys. So you
Either
send
to
your
me or
email
that.
to all panelists. You guys have the options to send it to all panelists and attendees. Change that to all panelists. And just a reminder, if you want your prize, stick around, and then we'll get you updated with how you can claim your prize.
Thank you for waiting, guys. There's 81 people, so
Oh my God.
please be patient. Yeah, we had a total of 115 actually. Happy Earth Day, guys. Thank you, Lucy.
For the meantime, I'll throw a question out there. Do you guys prefer dogs or cats?
Cats, of course.
Both? Yeah, I guess both are okay. Dogs.
Oh, Catherine and Gino, did it work?
Diana said dogs. I mean, I'm more of a cat person. I love both of them, guys. But my cousin just brought home the cutest kittens ever, and I already have 3 cats, and I'm contemplating on whether or not I should get another one. I'm sorry.